Trump is going to wait 2 more weeks for diplomacy. Here's my assessment. Wee woo, speculation alert. We don't know how much Israel has in its arsenal of defense. That's obviously confidential. Judging by the reports on both Wall Street Journal and everywhere else, it seems like their stock is being depleted at an alarming rate. And Israel cannot entertain this belligerent use of force, this escalation, without having sufficient defenses. Not the small interceptors, by the way. I'm not talking about the Tamir interceptors. Those are whatever, right? Those are not capable of hitting the big ballistic missiles that are doing the actual damage. Based on all of the information that I've read on Israeli stockpiles and judging by all of the analysis we've seen so far as like the anti-missile defense systems oftentimes failing to intercept the actual big ballistic missiles, with a bunch of successful strikes on Tel Aviv and all around the Israeli nation state, including the direct impact sites that we don't get to see on military sites, like in the Negev desert and things like that. I suspect that the Israeli defense capabilities are not designed to withstand unlimited attacks for an extended period of time from a country that is lobbing ballistic missiles. Washington Post has reported on the stockpiles as well. Will Israel's interceptors outlast Iran's missiles? The answer may shape the war. Israel is firing interceptors fast as it can produce them. That has raised questions within the Israeli security establishment about whether the country will run low on air defenses before Iran uses up its ballistic arsenal, according to 8 current and former officials. Now, what's interesting about this is just the interceptors. When they say interception or when they say Iron Dome, that is colloquially a much broader umbrella of defenses. You have American THAAD anti-air defense systems that were sent to Israel after Operation True Promise 1 or 2. I think it was after 2 that they sent those because those had direct impact sites. You have the THAAD system, which is insanely expensive. The THAAD system is both insanely expensive and America can't consistently resupply, okay? We've seen some of the THAAD systems actually fail as well. You also have the aero defense systems. Those are for ballistic missiles, okay? You also have the David Sling system, again, for ballistic missiles. And then you have the Iron Dome. What is actually known as the Iron Dome is an Israeli-American project that is there for short-range missiles and drones, right? All of these systems that they have to be consistently replenished. I think the media, NBC, tends to use Iron Dome as a stand-in for Israel's multi-layered missile defense, which is very misleading. I'm interpreting the NBC report as entire multi-layered defense system only intercepting 65% of the missiles, including David Sling, Arrow, and THAAD. Iron Dome itself is pretty against ballistic missiles. It's kind of a last-ditch effort, as we saw when they deployed like 20 Iron Dome missiles and none of them intercepted the ballistic missile in that video that we saw a night ago. That's the main question. My speculation is Israel will run out sometime next week of all the big boys that are necessary for the actual defense, because the ballistic missiles are the big boys. Those are the ones that they have to intercept. The drones are limited in their impact. You can overwhelm with the drones, and if you don't have any air defenses, then drones can be impactful, but clearly Israel is very good in terms of the Tamir interceptors, which also can run out, for the record. But these systems are unimaginably expensive, and I suspect they have like a 2-week window, and that is precisely the reason why I'm saying Israel has to either A, if America is not going to interfere, Israel has to go in and blow up all of the launchers. But they have been incapable of doing this. They have not been able to blow up all the launchers. So as long as missiles are still coming in, they can slow down the number of missiles that they need to intercept, but they can't stop it altogether. So if they can't blow up all the launchers and they're still getting hit with missiles, that timeline might extend a little bit, but it's still going to be consequential as it has been for the past couple of days. This is the reason why America has to join. If they want to do a long war of attrition, America has to join so that American bases will become missile sponges, because every missile that is being deployed in the direction of an American base is a missile that is not being sent to Tel Aviv. That's what I think is the plan here. And that's why I think they're going to do this perhaps this weekend. This is speculation again. This is complete speculation. I'm telling you right now, there is no way to know that this is what's going to happen. Judging by what I have seen thus far, I suspect that their goal ultimately is to bring in the United States of America so that they can at least change some of the strike targets away from Israel, because they won't be able to defend Israel, to American bases in the region, which are ultimately defenseless, by the way. American bases in the region, if they were struck with these kinds of ballistic missiles would go bye-bye. American bases in the region do not have the same level of anti-aircraft defense systems that Israel has on Israel proper. American resources in the region are exhausted as well, and because they're focusing on defending Israel. There are so many bases surrounding Iran that there is no way that they'd be able to successfully defend every single American base. This is part of the reason why they also pulled some of the troops away and the embassies and the family members of embassies away from the region. American bases are protected by the principle that if you strike an American base, you're striking against America. That's the underlying principle that protects these bases more so than anti-missile defense systems. They're protected by the fact that there's aircraft carriers in the region, right? But if America decides to strike Iran and enter the conflict, then Iran has to strike against America. Iran has to retaliate against America. Would America ask for help from NATO countries after these hypothetical attacks? No, who's to say that they haven't already? Who's to say that other NATO nations aren't already en route and have been offering surveillance capabilities and refueling capabilities to both Israeli fighter jets and also the Israeli Air Force in general, both in Gaza and in Lebanon and in numerous other places that Israel has chosen to attack? Didn't they strike multiple U.S. bases after Trump assassinated Soleimani, though? Why did that not escalate further? Because the impact was severely limited. That's why. Ironically enough, this is how I think they're going to get Trump to do this. I think people in Trump's ear right now are pointing to how he was so brave and bold for assassinating Qasem Soleimani, which was a severe escalation from the American side, and how limited the Iranian retaliation was in response to the assassination of a high-ranking and very famous IRGC leader. If I were to be in Trump's ear and I was like this bloodthirsty ultra-Zionist, I would tell him, Mr. Trump, this is called peace through strength. This perfectly is within the confines of what you said you wanted to do. You have said time and time again, you don't want Iran to have a nuke, and you don't want Iran to be a destabilizing force in the region any longer. This will be perfect for your legacy, and it will be super easy to do. We have the greatest, biggest dicked military on the planet, and look at how the Iranians failed to retaliate in kind when you assassinated Qasem Soleimani. I suspect people in Trump's ear are telling him this. They're pointing to a time when Trump, in the last administration, did something against Iran that was a severe escalation, and that Iran did not retaliate in a way that was so severe that it escalated the conflict. This is why I hope this doesn't happen. My big fear is they hit Fordow with American weapons as a mechanism to turn the American bases in the region into bullet sponges, basically, and missile sponges. Beautiful Israel does not get targeted because beautiful Israel does not have enough anti-air defenses to withstand a war of attrition directly between Iran and Israel. Big, beautiful Israel. So when Trump says 2 more weeks for diplomacy, I don't know if that's the case. I hope it's true. And I hope it doesn't happen.
That carries a cost with it in terms of potentially losing that momentum. The other question, of course, Brianna, becomes how much firepower does Israel have in terms of keeping up?
I like that she said, it's not an option here in Israel. Diplomacy, not a favored option here in Israel.
Same level of strikes against Iran, and can they keep that going at the same pace for another 2 weeks? So this will really be an open question now in terms of how Israeli officials interpret it and also how they officially respond to it, because it's been notable that up until this point they have been very careful about not explicitly advising the U.S. to get involved, about not wanting to be seen as trying to strong-arm President Trump or push him to make one decision or another. The sort of party line, if you like, has been very much to say that they are grateful for all the assistance that the U.S. has given up until now, primarily in a defensive.
She said within 2 weeks, not after 2 weeks. So anything can happen in those 14 days. It could be tomorrow or next day. I think the real reason why it would be sooner rather than later is because of what I just mentioned. Maybe it's just insane speculation. Okay. I don't know. Like I said, wee woo speculation alert. I'm just judging by what I've seen thus far and Israel's defense capabilities. I think, Friday night after market close, it seems consistent with what Trump has done in the past. What are the odds that this is simple petty bitch behavior from Trump and he just wants to punish Israel for the initiation of this conflict? That is the funniest outcome, and I don't think that's the case. But I have thought about this as well. What if Trump actually wants to negotiate with Iran eventually, but he's just allowing Israel to experience a little bit of the punishment because he's pissed off because Israel keeps like making him look bad and he hates looking bad. But I don't think that's the case. I envision a million different scenarios when conducting this kind of analysis. That's one of them. It's a very stupid one, but there is definitely a pettiness associated with American foreign policy, especially under the banner of Trump. Like there was zealotry associated with American foreign policy under Biden, ideological zealotry in terms of like ultra Zionist sentiment that I think factored into their considerations and most likely clouded their judgment. But I can totally see that being one of the possibilities. I don't think that's the case, but I have also thought about this as well, where it's like Trump is just kind of doing this so that Israel gets a little bit of, shut up juice and recognizes their place in this dynamic, by force. And it's almost like a pressure valve that you're releasing because there's so much anger and resentment towards Israel that, a little bit of sowing after so much reaping is not necessarily the worst thing from his estimation, maybe, but I don't think that's the case. A major U.S. bombing campaign against Iran is expected to begin as early as this weekend, according to his trusted Israeli and American sources. Approved by the Trump administration, the strikes will focus on key military and nuclear infrastructure, including the fortified Fordow facility, while Iran's most advanced centrifuges are located deep underground. The delay in timing, Hirsch reports, is due to Trump's desire to avoid disrupting U.S. markets when trading opens Monday. The operation goes beyond targeting Iran's nuclear capabilities. It aims to destabilize the country's leadership. U.S. and Israeli planners are counting on the internal unrest to break out, hoping that strikes on military bases, police stations, and administrative centers will incite broader opposition. Hirsch says there are even unconfirmed reports that Ayatollah Khamenei may have left Tehran. While some in Washington favor installing a moderate religious figure to lead the country in a transitional phase, Israeli officials reportedly reject this, pushing instead for full political control through a loyal replacement. These internal disagreements reflect a deeper divide over what post-strike Iran looks like. Intelligence circles are also looking to Iran's ethnic minorities, particularly Azeris with alleged CIA ties, as potential tools to spark wider dissent. Is this reporter to be trusted? Yes, this is a summarization of the Substack article from Seymour Hersh. Seymour Hersh's reporting is fairly solid. Now, again, this might not unfold at all, okay? This is not a given. Make no mistake. This is not a given. The plan, according to Hersh, bears resemblance to the previous Western interventions in Libya and Syria, where external pressure led to long-term instability and suffering. The attack on Iran, he warns, could have similar consequences, potentially fragmenting the country and inflaming the region, all while being driven by Netanyahu's strategic aims and Trump's desire for a major geopolitical win. You have Armenia, I guess, as like a kind of ally to Iran, but Russia has already dropped Armenia, as you guys know. And you have Azerbaijan as an ally to Israel, as far as like regional allegiances goes. And Armenia's capabilities of like defending or aiding Iran are nothing.